So that is actually live, and that is in front of me. Okay, I haven't got a camera which I can actually just train on it to show you that it's live, but it's actually sort of sitting on the stand next to me. So that's what I'm going to paint. I'll show you the palette again. This is what I'm going to use, and titanium white, and put it there. Probably won't need as much as I normally have out on the palette, because I'm painting just that bit smaller today. Cadmium yellow pale hue, or in fact in the Griffin it's light hue. Just make sure. Right, and red. It's my permanent rose. Blue. It's cobalt blue. A little bit of black, because that's my standard teaching palette. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of black on that. Not that I might use very much of it, but there it is. And the burnt sienna. In fact, I don't really need much of that either, because if I just tell you in a moment, those are the two short flat brights. That's a number 6. That's a number 4, although that's pretty meaningless because all the brands have different numbers, and a little round there for kind of detailing. Okay, and let me go to the canvas. Right, so that's my canvas, and it's already prepared. That's an old painting that I took the gunge out of the bottom of my solvent pot and went over an old painting because I didn't like it anymore. All right, so there you go. Just move over to there. All right, and then I'll start painting. Now, hopefully the angle that I'm painting at will be something like the angle you'll see as well. So, of course, cameras can be a bit funny that way. Right, so this is what I was saying earlier, is what I kind of generally teach. I tell people to paint small and paint often. So this is the size, 5 inches by 7 inches. You can do one a day very easily, and it won't take you very long. Okay, so really it's just, I find it's a great way to get the process down. Just move that there. And I always draw in straight lines, because you can rejig the thing into curves at a later point. I just bought this earlier on in my local supermarket just for this. I don't really care much for aubergines, so let's put in a little bit of a rake, an angle. Okay, so that's the general shape. Bit of green there for the whatever they call that in the vegetable world, where the stalk meets the vegetable, and then there's a shadow coming down there like that, and then meeting the vegetable like that. Okay, so that's it there. All right, so the thing I always do at this stage, I might just push that out a little bit. I want that to be a bit further out. Okay, yeah. So what I do now is I check where the lightest light is and the darkest dark. See, when I was a nipper, I left school at 16, and I went to train as a graphic reproducer, which was a kind of a branch of the world of print. And in those days, although I didn't operate one, they had scanners, not like the desktop scanners you have today, but let me might as well face you while I'm talking to you. They had a scanner would occupy practically the entire room, like on one wall of the room, and it was this huge thing, Crossfield 640 it was, the one that we had when I was an apprentice. It cost £500,000, and it's why a lot of the these places went bankrupt when when Apple Macs came in, because they just couldn't compete with the Apples, and they'd spent all this money on these scanners. But anyway, the scanner operator used to have to get an eyeglass, and if there was a piece of a photograph they had to scan, or a transparency, they'd be looking at, and they told me this while I was just standing there, because I wasn't apprenticed into that part. So with union demarcation, I couldn't just start doing what they were doing. I was doing a different part of it, but they were saying, "Oh yeah, I'm just finding the lightest light point in this picture and the darkest dark," and I didn't know what they were talking about, and it only really sort of tweaked with me eventually. That's exactly what we do as painters. So you got to see where your lightest light is, and everything comes in between those points when you're painting. So let me just change it back. Right. So for me, the darkest dark is round about there. That's the darkest of anything, maybe just a bit underneath here, like that. And now that's not to say that there's not more dark. Certainly running down the side of the aubergine there. And then the lightest light is this high point here. You could see it. It's obvious. There it is. But everything else comes in between those. There are two more highlights that are not as bright. And there's a highlight here which is not quite as bright. But I've got a spotlight on that aubergine. Okay, so I'm going to start out with the darks and establish that. The usual thing that I'm talking about, that's the darks being the bones of the painting. So I'm going to change my brush to this number 4 flat bright. Okay, make sure I have got to have your rag with you. Right, so I'm going to mix up a blue and a red. Aubergines are kind of purpley, aren't they? So a blue and a red. And I'm going to put a touch of yellow into it because they're not bright purples. And I'm going to add in just a touch of black. Mainly because it's there. I think I could get away without using it. But anyway, so I'm going to put that in there. Put that in. Maybe there. I can go in for the darkest darks actually later, but put that in there. Okay, I'm going to put in the green. I'm going to make up the green part, the leafy part. So blue and yellow makes green, but red goes into it to make it more natural, a bit more yellow. Yeah, something like that. But that needs a shadow because there's a shadow around the back on the right hand side there. So I'm going to use a little bit of black to make a shadow. I'm going to put that in first. Come down there like that. And then I can put in the brighter green. All right, now I'm going to make the background, which is a kind of a mid greyish blue. Okay. And let me just check the chats. All right, so now I'm going to yes, do that blue background. So it's a grey. So blue. I think a little bit of red because it's mid-tone blue, and a touch of yellow and white. So the 3 colours plus white would give me a kind of a grey. It's tipped towards blue, and there's a very warm light on it, so I'm going to add a little bit more yellow into it, a little bit more white. So this is the body colour. Okay. I may make sure I make enough. Let me just white, yellow, blue, touch of red. Okay. Make sure I've got enough of it. Put a bit more red into it. Something like that. And now it's also got a shadow. So this is back to basics, okay? This is what I teach. As you go on, you lose the black. But I think at the beginning, you use the black just to make shadows. No other purpose to it. It's a bit of black. And I'm going to add in a little bit more blue as well. And it's quite dark, but not as dark as the aubergine. And I put that in first. I'm going to darken that actually. That goes up there like that. Because the aubergine is casting that shadow. I'm not doing the foreground yet. That's different. And now to put in the background. Just the general body colour. I think I'll loosen that up a little bit. But I'm painting on a surface which has been painted on before, so it's quite dry. Hard to move the paint around on it. I've got hundreds of these things. You know, these paintings don't always work, so I kind of get to save the panel if it's still usable. Okay, so I've got the background now. The foreground is a kind of a light manila kind of colour. So it's a light, warm grey, really. So I'm going to make up some white, you know, kind of woody colour. So white, yellow, red, and blue, because greys are always made out of the three colours plus white. And then you tip them towards what you want them to be. So a bit more red in there. A bit more yellow. A bit more. Yeah, something like that, I think. Slightly more yellow. So I've got that. That's the body colour. That's the colour that the object is, the thing that it's sitting on. And then I'm going off to the side. I'm going to put a bit of black into it and make the shadow. And, you know, remember that that's the only reason black is on the palette, just to make shadows. And it's quite a dark shadow because there's a very strong light, spotlight on the aubergine. It creates kind of dramatic shadows, I suppose. Yeah. So it's different from the shadow on the backboard, you know, on the background. Let's darken it slightly. It's about the same tone as the shadow on the wall, but right. And then to the foreground. So this is just the whole foreground averaged out. Like for people who don't paint, I think if you do one of these a day for, you know, a few months, I promise you'll get sick of it. But it will internalize the process, and that's what it's about, really. So I've got all that in there. Now I'm going to go towards that that dark of the aubergine now. So that purpley kind of colour might not be the most. It's very subtle, isn't it? And can the camera and the monitors that we're all using pick up on quite how subtle it is? So I'm going to put that in as a reddish dark. Come up around here. And come up. It's shaped here because this is reflecting the surface on which it sits. Okay. Then up there. All right. Push that out a bit. Right, so I've got that bit in there now. I'm going to reflect the surface on which it's standing in the aubergine. So I'm going to grab some of my foreground color and mix it in with the aubergine color, because that, for me, logically will help give me what I'm looking for, because it'll be it'll be the foreground color mediated by that by the aubergine color. I'm going to work off that. So perhaps something like that. Put that there. It's not exactly the same, it's darker. A bit more yellow too. It's quite subtle. Okay. There. Up, there, there. But the reflection up here, to me, is bluer. Okay, so I'm going to add some blue into that and some white into that aubergine color. Is it bluer? It's actually not that far from what I've done. Yeah, I'm changing my mind. I'm going back to that. And that can come along here. Now, there is a real reflection, like a good sort of solid version of that foreground color being reflected up here. I'm going to put that in there. Just a straight line of it. There's a very warm mid-tone just below the real highlight. Just about here. Put that in. Put a bit of red on this, and I'm just going to continue that up a little bit. There. There's a bluish highlight off to the right. Okay. Still going to mix it in with that aubergine kind of tone there. Put a bit of red into it. And that can go there. There's definitely a blue, quite a bright blue here. Put that in there. A reflection, it seems very, very close to the background, but slightly darker. So I'm going to get some of my background, put a little bit of black into it. Put that here. And then the same on the right hand side. Coming down here. And that actually goes all the way down to that part there. Okay, the green is brighter than I have it, so I'm going to actually add in a little bit of white to that green that I made up. Put that there. Across there like that. Down the side of it there. I'm going to change brush. I think this brush I've got is the small round one is pretty crappy. It's turning out like a toilet brush. Anyway, so now down on the right hand side of that green, it goes quite sort of reddish, because it's probably been sort of sitting in the box of aubergines for quite a while there. Put that there, and then across the top of that part there. Now there's some more dark bluish aubergine colour, just to separate out those highlights. I've got that right here. Down there. It goes more red as it gets down further towards the base. Push that up in there. Now there's a little bit of background. I'm going to lighten the background, because the background can be sort of, I put it in as a big average of what I thought the colour is, and now I can sort of start putting a few subtleties into that background. I can shape my leaves, sculpting them downwards, and put in a gap there. And it's kind of yellower down here as well. I'd like to say that I went and bought this aubergine at an open air market, but there aren't any. Not around here anyway. So I'm mixing up a little bit more background, making it slightly purplish and lighter actually. A bit more yellow into it as well. I can shape that shadow there, bring it down. Finish that there, don't want that heavy. What would you say? The meeting of those two tones. Come over here. Push that up there. Okay, so I'm going to reflect some of that that aubergine in the background. Just mixing a bit of the aubergine colour into the background colour here, because it will be reflecting it. There's no doubt. I'm also going to push that around, just out a little bit further. There. Now there are some colours in the background, or the foreground I should say, which are warmer, slightly brown. I'm going to mix in some red and yellow into that foreground colour. There. Comes right here. That's actually a drawing board of mine that I used to use when I was doing lots of illustration. I'd attach the paper that I was painting the illustrations and I attached them to these boards. So I had a load of these boards so I could have them ready to go at any time. So that's why it has this surface on it, and there's paint on it as well. Acrylic paint, really. So we've got that there. I just want to make sure I've completed this part going on there, so that meets up and agrees with the shadow above it. Now there's a very dark that I must put in underneath, so I'm going to use a purple plus a little bit of black and add in a little bit of burnt sienna as well, make sure it's very dark indeed. And for this darkest dark around here, which is the beginning of the shadow, and as it comes around it gets lighter and grayer. There. Now, I want some more subtleties in my aubergine. There. There's a slight darkness coming down. I wonder what that's a reflection of. Just here, around here. It's slightly darker, so I'm going to put it in. It's darker than the surrounding stuff, because that's not dark enough. Okay, yeah, that's more like it. It goes around there like that. And it's a bit darker there too. It's probably sort of reflecting me as well. Sort of, I'm in there, I'm sure. Now there's another blue down here. This does make you this sharpens your observation skills. That's for sure. Painting objects from life. There's a coolish highlight to the left hand side. I'm going to try a bluish highlight, but I'm not sure if it is that, so let me try mixing in that blue with that manila color from the foreground, see what I get out here. And that comes around there like that. There's loads of reflections in this, my goodness. And there's a reddish part of the and reddish darker part to the aubergine up near the leaves here. Coming down there like that. And then I've seen another blue one. Another blue reflection coming down here. And there's a kind of a slightly manila-y reflection on that side of it. Okay, I've got the blue ones down the right hand side. Now there's some work to do in the leafy part, in what do you call it? I don't know, the stalk part. A bit darker there, coming around there, and it's slightly darker green just across the top of the shoulder there, and then goes warm and light just below that. There. Okay, and another lighter part here. I'm going to have to steady my hand with my little finger. Yeah, like that. And now some lighter, I suppose it's the kind of the lightest part of the green. Make something to do. I'm going to have to restate this. I've lost it a bit there. And then there's another light coming around here. Now, there's an interesting light pink. Let's see how that was underneath. Not sure what that's reflecting, but it seems to be there, so it's got to go in. And I want to restate the dark around the right hand side, so make a bit more aubergine purple, put black into it. I'm going to put in a little bit of burnt sienna into it as well, so it's very, very dark. Come down the side there. Step that a little bit there. My reflection needs to be a little bit lighter than that. It's a light grey. I'm going to push that in a little bit. Push that shadow away. Come down there like that. There's more and more information in the skin. So I mean, what I don't do is I don't blend. I don't want to blend. Okay, certainly not at this stage. There's a dark aubergine. If you do want to sort of blend, I recommend not blending, but putting in more and smaller strokes. And I'm going to soften rather than blend, I think. Soften that around there, just with the dry brush. Okay, I want to put in the brightest bright now. So white, it's quite a golden color. So white plus yellow plus red. White plus yellow plus red. Yeah, it's brighter than the foreground. Let me see how that goes. There, down there like that. But either side of it, there are kind of slightly, slightly grey-green. Let's have a look. It tails off both sides of itself. There and there. Okay, and I'm going to just develop that little part a little bit more. What happens when you start blending? If you start blending and there's not enough variation, you know, like variation of hues and little dabs here and there, everything goes flat. So don't do any blending at all or softening until you've got lots of information in there to work with. And I think I want a dark down there as well. So I always think that the paintings are best when they're sort of tiny, lots of tiny little variations. Right. Also, I kind of was wondering where I actually got this board from. In fact, I made it. I made it from a piece of plywood. and I put muslin over it. So the actual background is muslin, really, or the actual surface I'm painting on, and it's very grippy, it's very toothy. So it actually needs a lot of paint. This is kind of a lot of paint for me, you know. And then here, to give the illusion that everything is disappearing around a curve away from us, you can just break it up a little bit. Break that up because it doesn't need to be, we don't want it to be obvious. Around here, it should be sharp because the light is on it. Around here, kind of colder and less distinct. So I'm going to add some white, do a little bit more on the foreground. Use plenty of paint because it's actually hard to get it to come off the brush with that surface. Actually, do you know what? That is a slight greenish colour for me now. Let me put some blue into that mix. Can you see anything that's starting to come off the camera? Push that around there. Sculpt that darkest dark a little bit. And have it come around here like that. How long have I been on? Let me just see, because it's interesting, because I think that you shouldn't really be painting for more than, you should get something done no longer than an hour and a half, let's say. Do that. Do something like this in an hour to an hour and a half. And then it doesn't become a massive task that's going to take you all day. Just going to bring that around there a little bit. I was going to soften the shadow, but I don't think I will. It's quite soft in reality, but let me put a little bit more green, light green here. In fact, it's quite a more sort of acidic green. And come up there like that. Restate the dark down here. Just soften it slightly. Little lump of the paint came off there. I wonder what's going on there. And a bit more. Description in there. And I think a bit more description in the background too. So I'm going to actually make up a bit more of the background blue, greyish blue. I'm going to add a touch of black into it because I might take it to where I want it to go. Hey art enthusiasts, this is just a quick interruption to let you know of ways that you can support me making these free videos and get something unique and original designed by me in return. Dive into my unique collection of t-shirts, aprons and mugs, all designed with love by yours truly. Whether you're a seasoned art lover or just appreciate a good design, these exclusive items on my online shop are perfect for adding a splash of creativity to your daily life. By purchasing, you're not only just getting fantastic art-inspired merchandise, you're also supporting my journey as an artist. So why wait? Check out the link below and bring a piece of my art into your life today. You should see the link to the store just underneath the video description below this video. Now, back to the video. Just a little bit, and similar to the rest of the paintings, just little dabs, just for interest value really, instead of just having a plain background, especially around here. That is interesting. I could push that up a little bit. Darken it somewhat. Darks in there. That's probably reflecting the stuff that's on the desk around me. A few more darks in there as well. Let me put in some blue there as well. And even here. That can be softened. That definitely can be softened out. And that can be actually a bit brighter. Soften that out. And that can go darker as well. There. Down to there, that's fine. And then probably quite a vivid reflection here. Then the last thing you ask yourself is, how could I make it just that little bit better? So I'm going to put in kind of a lightish colour. I like things to sit in pools of light. So I can do that just by lightening this slightly, and I put a little bit of yellow into it. Just shape the aubergine there a little bit. What did I do there? Fix that. There. Okay, that'll do me. Well, that's not too bad actually. Yeah. That's it. And then you stick it on the pile. I've got gazillions of them back there. I don't know what to do with them.